Sweet. So it's just gone 6 p.m. now. So I just want to welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining our webinar. Whether you're watching back the recording or you're here live watching it with us. So we're joined by two lovely psychology students, and essentially what we're going to be doing is they're going to do a bit of a run through about their degrees and then answer some pre-submitted questions that you guys submitted when you signed up for this webinar. And then we'll move on to some live questions. So you guys can ask these in the chat and I'll read them out and they'll do their best to answer it. Yeah, so I'll just flick it over to you guys. Yeah, so take it away.
Kia ora everyone, thank you for attending. My name's Alannah and I'm in my third year of a Bachelor of Arts at the University of Auckland and I major in psychology.
Super awesome to see everyone here. Kia ora, I'm Eliana. I'm in my fourth year, doing a Bachelor of Laws and a Bachelor of Science conjoint at the University of Auckland. And similar to Alannah, I'm also majoring in psychology.
Okay, first should we talk about what psychology is? So psychology is a very broad discipline that studies how humans behave, think, and interact with others in society. A psychologist can conduct work in the environment of their client. So this can be in a school or correctional facility or in a practice in both urban and rural areas.
And speaking of psychologists, you might have heard of the term therapist as well. Psychologists are also therapists. For example, a clinical psychologist, they provide therapy to clients involving different exercises, methods, and encouraging tasks for their clients to complete. However, psychologists can also provide a diagnosis on different mental health conditions such as anxiety. And through studying psychology, we have learned many different topics from human lifespan development to neuroscience.
Yes, and psychology is quite a structured pathway. So there's a 3-year undergrad degree in a BA or Bachelor of Science, and then you can do degree. So that's after you graduate, you can go into an honors or in a named master's degree, as well as a postgraduate diploma. And example of named masters is like a health psychology degree, organizational psychology. So you go through that after graduation. You can also you can also apply for masters or a PhD, such as a Doctor of Clinical Psychology or in other specialized pathways like educational psychology as well.
Awesome. And a little bit more about psychology. So psychology is super open to your lifestyles and interests. Research normally includes conducting experiments with universities as an academic. And particularly, you can study psychology all over the country. For example, in Auckland, where we're from, Massey, Victoria, in Victoria University, in Wellington, in the Waikato, Otago, and Canterbury. And as we briefly touched on earlier, psychology is a multidisciplinary degree, which means that there's lots of different pathways you can take, lots of different specializations you can learn about. Some include clinical psychology, educational psychology, and different kinds of research. And not only that, but if you've heard of HR or human resources, it would be really good if you study psychology from that. And yeah, just it also helps you in other areas, for example, public policy. And yeah.
Okay, so after university, so once you graduate with your 3-year BA or Bachelor of Science, you can start work straight away, but that would be more in like an HR role or a more public policy role. You can't officially be called like a psychologist yet. You have to do postgraduate study for that. So that would be, like I said before, like honors or postgrad diploma, and then you can go into a master's or you can go into a doctorate as well. Normally the last year of a program in a master's is an internship. So that's supervised work that you complete and you're watched by another psychologist and you conduct therapy on clients as well. And then after your internship, that's about 1,500 hours, and then you can be registered with the New Zealand Psychologist Board and you can start working as a registered psychologist in New Zealand. So yeah, it's great. Okay, So why did I choose psychology? Leaving high school, I actually had no clue what I wanted to study at all. But I knew I love talking to people, and I knew I wanted a job that involved talking to people as well. Um, so I did some research and then psychology kept coming up. And so I thought, okay, I'll give it a go. I'll do like one semester and see how it is. I also just note too, like when you start university, you do have 2 weeks to decide if you want to keep your classes or your paper or your degree, so you can change things around. Don't feel like you're locked in for life and anything. So yeah, I really like psychology. I loved it in my first semester. Something that really interests me about psychology is the ability to help people who may be experiencing mental health issues in their daily lives and in their relationships as well. I consider psychology not really working, but it's instead like a service-based career, and that's something that really aligns with my values as well. And psychology for me is really a perfect mix of my interests. I really liked bio and stats at school, but I also really liked like more humanities subjects like social studies. And yeah, I really like how you do think about the person, but also society as whole. So yeah.
And for me, why I chose psychology, well, actually, the first reason I applied is because I've always been super passionate about mental health. During high school, there was not as much support for student well-being. And so I started up my high school's first ever Hauora committee. We spoke up for students, to the teachers about what they're going through, and also created designated safe spaces in school for people to go to if they were feeling down, anxious, or even overwhelmed. But that was when I kind of realized that as a student, there was a limit to how much I could help others if I didn't have any professional knowledge about mental health and how to better support those going through difficult times. So I studied to, so I applied to study psychology at university, which kind of brings me to my second reason. I went to uni because I wanted to learn more about human behavior and how to help others. At uni, you learn so much about how the brain works, why people behave in different ways, different social dynamics, for example, why some of us get anxious when there's conflict in relationships, for example. But my favorite part was definitely learning about the different methods we can support others depending on what they're going through. Then lastly, becoming a psychologist involves such meaningful work. For me, if I could make a difference and help even just one person with the knowledge and skills that I've gained at uni, that would honestly be the best part for me. And yeah, I would really just love to give back to my community.
Okay, so it's not all studying. We do have lots of fun outside of just our lectures as well. So in the psychology student life, I've got a picture here of my timetable that's for the semester. So as you can see, it's not very similar to school. It's not just straight 9 to 3 p.m. classes. There's lots of gaps, lots of chances to do assignments or have other extracurriculars. Something I like to do in my free time is volunteering at like a rest home. So you gain good experience working with other people with diverse needs. I work with people with dementia, and it's been very beneficial to learn like different symptoms of dementia, but also how you can help people and their family as well. Yeah, I also make sure to play netball, like get exercise, have fun. I also volunteered in the behavioral psychology lab at Auckland Uni, so that's with animals, pigeons. It's with pigeons, and so you can see a photo here of the globs. That's a pigeon egg. So that's all about measuring pigeons like response times, and then that gets all written up in a journal article. So yeah, very hands-on, but it's also a good balance as well.
And a little glimpse in my life. Yeah, so in the first picture, if you can see, there's like a bunch of students. As you know, at uni, you don't need to wear uniforms. I also included a picture of what a uni classroom setting might look like. So this is a classroom at one of the lecture halls at the University of Auckland, one of the older buildings. But yeah, so usually there's like a professor who stands at the front, and then there's just lots of seats, usually going upwards so that people in the back can see. And then the second photo, if you can see, the one with lots of glass and the cool looking building, that is my go-to study spot. I really love it because it's super open. Yeah, there's snacks there available to get, as well as it's just nice being able to study there, seeing other students. So the sense of community is really good there. Besides uni, outside of classes, I also do volunteering. I'm involved with the anxiety helpline. So if you're ever feeling anxious, give them a call. And I also volunteer with Age Concern Auckland. So I usually do elderly visits, like home visits. I visit elderly who are usually experiencing loneliness and just want someone to talk to. So that's what I usually do. And other fun things, there's lots of uni clubs available for that social aspect of uni. There's a psychology club, which we're both a part of, which has been really fun. There's lots of social gatherings like hangouts, games, and also more like academic events, for example, speaker panels, if you just want to learn more about where your degree can take you.
All right, so I'll just jump in quickly. So what we're going to do now is just move along to the pre-submitted questions that I spoke about at the start of the webinar. So the girls are going to take turns or work together to answer these questions here, and then we'll move along to the live questions after. But if you guys did have any burning questions, just pop them in the chat now and we can get to them after these ones. Go for it.
Yeah, okay, yeah, sounds good. Okay, so what high school subjects do you need for a psychology degree? So there's no compulsory subjects you need to get into BA or Bachelor of Science in Psychology, but you do need university entrance as well. Some subjects that could provide a good background for psych, just from our experience, is biology, statistics. It's quite a lot of statistics, social studies, history, English, and health. But yeah, nothing's compulsory except for university entrance.
Sweet. And moving on to the second question, is specializing in child or clinical psychology challenging? That's a good question. It is, I would say it's challenging to an extent. We both aren't currently specializing in either of those pathways at the moment, just because we're still completing our bachelor's, so that's our undergrad degree. But from what I've heard from other students doing postgrad, it can be quite challenging. But if you're interested in, for example, developmental psychology, which is working with children, learning how children behave and how they're growing up, and also clinical psychology, then it would make your life way easier. Just because if you enjoy a subject, you're more likely to want to learn about it. And all postgrad courses are quite a step up from just getting your bachelor's. There's usually more of a competitive component to it. There's limited spacing to get in. For example, if you want to get into the clinical program at the University of Auckland, I'm not sure for other unis, but usually there's only maybe around 14 people who get accepted, so quite competitive. And yeah, it also, I guess, depends on your grades at the uni. They look into that. So, but anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so what does a typical day look like for a psychologist? So we aren't psychologists yet, but from like what we've know or like what we've heard from our lecturers talk about, for clinical psychologists, you usually see around 2 to 5 clients a day, and that can be in a clinical setting or in a home visit. So a psychologist does one-on-one help. You can also lead group therapy, and there's also opportunities to just go into like research psychologists. So that's more of an academic pathway. You might be like interviewing people, participants, or you could be running experiments in labs as well. So yeah, very fun day in the lives, but quite like diverse as well.
Cool. And next question. If I want to work as a forensic psychologist in New Zealand, what postgraduate qualifications do I need? To be very honest, I'm not completely sure about the specific qualifications you'd need, but you can study a master's of forensic psychology at Victoria University in Wellington. At the Auckland at Auckland University, there are a few professors who specialize in forensic psychology who you might be able to get research under. You would definitely need postgraduate qualifications. And yeah, I would say it's really uni dependent and depends on where you go.
Perfect. So what is the hardest part of studying psychology at university? It's honestly the balance of everything. So, we're balancing volunteering experience, we're also working part-time jobs, and then we're also studying full-time as well. It is quite hard to get assignments handed in or balance working as much as you want to, or as much volunteering experience as you want to. So that's probably one hard aspect. Another hard aspect is the length of time it does take to become a registered psychologist in New Zealand. As you saw before, like it's not just you graduate and then you're working, you do have to do post-grad if you want to be registered, and it can be quite long term and quite a lot of money as well. So that is something also to think about.
Cool. Are there clinics or volunteer opportunities to gain experience while studying? So I would say it can actually be quite difficult to get experience in clinics, in clinical settings, just because those experiences usually you would need some sort of professional background. But it's definitely not impossible. Depends on what your experience is and who you can reach out to. But I would say there's definitely lots and lots of opportunities for other volunteering areas, for example, in charities, in other like NGOs, so like non-government organizations. For example, I volunteer for the Anxiety in New Zealand. Alannah volunteers for
Elder care.
yes, and age concern and other areas. So lots of opportunities there.
Yes. Okay, so any advice for taking cognitive and behavioral neuroscience? So in first year we did a compulsory neuroscience topic, and some tips we think are very important is lots of diagrams, labeling the brain, take lots of notes, flashcards. You need to know the definition of frontal lobe, hippocampus, left and right hemisphere. Also just make sure attendance is also very helpful for studying while at university. So labs are normally smaller groups. You have the tutor, it's more of a classroom environment. So you can ask lots of questions there as well. Yeah, it's a lot of memorization, I think, for those papers as well. Something also that comes under cognitive and behavioral neuroscience, which I feel like is a bit, I didn't really realize until I came to university, is it's a lot of perception. So that's biology of the ears, biology of the eyes. So yeah, it's a very interesting topic. Yeah.
Sorry, I was muted. Please submit your live questions in the chat if you did have any. But while those come through, I'll just ask some questions that were asked at last year's psychology webinar, just to sort of get us started. I'll just ask this one because it was sort of a little bit touched on, but what's the difference between doing a BA or a BSci in psychology?
Yeah, that's a really good question. At the University of Auckland, the difference is nothing. Usually it's literally just the name. And actually, I guess there is a difference. But in terms of the psychology subjects, even if you study a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology or a Bachelor of Science in Psychology, you're all attending the same classes. You're all together, so it doesn't really matter which pathway you take. The main differences are that there are different electives that you can have. Electives are subjects, courses that don't really align with your major. For example, for me, I do a Bachelor of Science, and from some of my electives, I study geography, environmental science, and just, I guess, more of the sciencey subjects now.
Yeah, and then for BA, it's a bit more humanitarian kind of focus. So humanities, I do more criminology, sociology electives. I also, for Bachelor of Arts at UOA, you do have to double major. So I do anthropology as well as psychology as well.
Sweet. So there are some questions coming through into the chat. So someone's asking, what is first year psychology like at uni?
Oh, that's a good question. Do you want to answer? So first year psychology, it's like super fun, super interesting. It's very broad, so it's kind of like when we talked about it being very like multidisciplinary, you kind of cover every like you cover clinical, you cover educational, neuroscience. It's like all the different types of psychology, but in a very like broad way. It's very interesting. Oh, cultural psychology as well. It's very interesting. Um, what else? Like, do you think it's sad?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess like adding on to maybe the social aspect of a first year psych student, your classes at UOA would be quite massive. There's like hundreds of students in one classroom. But to get that like social aspect, I really recommend joining clubs and really talking to people around you and yeah, attending all of your classes so you can meet new people.
Great. So next question, shout out to Samantha who has joined all of our webinars. So do you guys do case studies during your study?
Yeah, I can answer this one. We do study case studies. Usually we look at different academics who've done research. We would read through the research they've done, the case studies they've done in different types of areas in psych. In terms of us actually doing, like being involved in case study, I'm not really too sure if that's what you were asking. But sometimes in our classrooms, we can be involved in, for example, experiments, where we may not necessarily be the ones conducting it in an undergrad level, but we can be involved and the professors can get our data. And yeah. And I guess in a postgrad level, you can be conducting more research, and that involves like experiments with actual people. And yeah, hopefully that answered your question.
Great. So someone is asking, what is the total amount of years it takes to be fully registered?
That's a good question. Let me do the maths. So 3 year undergrad, masters. So if you wanna, so there's 3 ways to be registered in New Zealand. So that's like they call it the applied pathway. So it's clinical psychology, health psychology, and behavioral analysis. So that's three. So clinical psychology, that's I think about 3 years plus 3 years plus honors.
Which is like 4 years. If
4 years.
you do a master's, that's probably another 2 to 3 years. So that might be 6 to 7.
6 to 7, yeah.
And then you can be a registered psychologist. Some people want to do PhD, that takes longer, so another 2 to 3 years. So if we're totaling everything, if you want to do a PhD, that's probably around like 8-ish years.
Yeah. But your last year is like an internship, so that will be like you basically are working. So yeah.
Nice. So how time consuming is a degree in psychology when studying?
Time consuming. So at uni, your professors also assign you readings to do in your own time so that you can learn more about what they're teaching. And if you're only studying, for example, not working, not volunteering or doing anything else, I don't think it's that time
Yeah,
consuming.
because you probably saw like the timetable, like it's not, you do have gaps. And yeah, you do have chances to like study between breaks and stuff like that.
I guess for perspective, one course usually has maybe 2 to 3 hours of lectures each week in 1 week. And usually you take 4 courses, so 4 papers. And if each paper has like 2 to 3 hours, that's like
15 hours a
15
week.
hours
Yeah,
each just on
yeah.
lectures. So that's like classes. And then if you include your reading time or studying time, yeah, I guess it really just depends on how much you study.
Great. So next question, what is your favorite field of psychology and why?
Good questions.
Do you want to start us off?
Yes, I'm particularly interested in like behavioral psychology. I feel like I've had the most experience in it with like the behavioral lab last year, and then also behavioral psychologists do like interventions for like they can do with people in dementia places like where I'm volunteering as well. So I'm just super interested in it because I think behavioral psychology perspective is more on like the environment causes difficulties in people's lives rather than like a mental illness causes it. So it's more of like a holistic approach and more of a like like no one's blamed. It's like the environment that they're in that's making it like difficult. So yeah, that's why I'm interested in that.
Awesome. For me, I'm definitely more interested in clinical psychology. I think it's so cool to be able to not only understand what people can be going through, but help them really understand themselves as well, and really equip other people with the support and the tools for them to be able to support themselves and go through life. In clinical psychology, you work with people with a whole wide range of different mental conditions, for example, anxiety, depression, um, and other things. So, yeah.
Sweet. This question is pretty insightful and it's following on from what you guys were sort of talking about as well. So to do with like prescribing medication. So just wondering if pharmacy crosses over into psychology in terms of prescribing medications for people with mental illnesses.
That's a good question.
So that's more like a psychiatrist. So that's through you become a doctor first and then you go into psychiatry after you graduate as a doctor. So we can't like psychologists can't prescribe medicine, but we do learn in classes about like antidepressants and stuff like that. So we do have like the background, but not really the like we can't prescribe it ourselves. We'd recommend like the client to a psychiatrist who we probably would work with closely to then like prescribe them a certain amount and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. And also psychologists can work with GPs, yeah, and like other doctors.
Sweet. No, that answers that perfectly. So I'll just give it another second for some more live questions, but I will ask these ones that were submitted last year. Yeah, so kind of just asking a little bit more along the lines of like internships and placements. So what sort of, if you guys could expand on that a little bit, essentially.
Cool. Yeah, really great question. Internships usually are at UOA, internships are offered in postgraduate levels, usually in master's or a PhD program. Yeah, it's usually embedded in the course. You're required to have a certain number of clinical hours. In terms of your bachelor's and undergrad, there's not really many opportunities for internships in a clinical setting, but there are opportunities for you to work under professors in helping them with their research, maybe over summer. And yeah, actually, it also just depends on the uni you go to. All over the country, different unis offer different types of courses and also different experiences. And so, yeah.
Great. So a live question, do clinical psychologists work with just adults or children as well?
So yeah, clinical psychologists work with adults and children. They can even work with like infants as well. So that's like newborns too. It's a very broad career. So like super cool. There's also a lot of room for like movement as well. So if you become a clinical psychologist, you might want to start your career doing like adults, and you might want to move to like children or younger, like kindergarten age. For to be registered as a clinical psychologist in New Zealand, you'll have to have like experience with both working with children and adults in your internships as well.
Sweet. So another one, do you guys have exams, and if so, how many?
We do, sadly.
Yeah, we do.
It's a bit different for you because you do like law as well. Yeah.
Maybe you can talk about psychology.
Yeah, okay. So we do have law. Oh, sorry, we do have psychology exams. They're quite essay based. I will say that it's very rare to have multi-choice psychology exams. Normally, they can be open book or closed book on campus. So this year I've got only one psychology exam because I'm only taking one psychology paper. But if I took like four psychology papers, I'd have like four exams. Normally, it's like you would have an exam if you had the psychology class. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So usually one psychology exam per paper, and the exams are usually they usually ask you to apply your knowledge. For example, throughout the year, they teach you what you need to learn, different case studies, and then they might give you an example in the exam of what to do in this situation, and then you just need to apply your knowledge.
Sweet, awesome. Yes, I just switched back to some questions here on my little list. So, yeah, can you get any sort of psychology job right after your undergrad, so your bachelor's degree, before you go into postgrad? Is there sort of some way to get into psych then, or do you have to do the postgrad?
You should answer this one.
So you probably could get involved in, I've heard like NGOs, you could maybe have a role in that, but you can't, like give therapeutic advice or anything like that. You could maybe do like social support work or like youth worker, maybe like within NGOs or like charities as well. But lots of people, I think, go into postgrad if they want to do like full-on therapy and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Sweet. I'll just ask one that's popped up in my own brain, but what's your guys' favorite part about studying psychology?
Oh, good
Oh,
question.
this is a good question.
But it's too much to choose between.
I think go
Yeah,
first.
yeah, go first.
Um, I think I briefly mentioned it a bit earlier, but I feel like psychology is just a really cool subject to learn about. You can learn about so many different types of things. For example, how your brain works and how people interact with each other, why people behave the way that they do, what someone may be going through. Just being able to understand others better is like just super cool to learn about. And I guess in a more just like unique context, I think meeting other people who also like psychology and also like helping others is just super cool. And just everyone is super friendly as well.
Yes. I agree. Like, I feel like it's been super eye-opening subject. Like, sometimes I go to lectures and I just feel like I'm in a TED talk. The stuff they're talking about is so interesting. Like, I'm like, how am I here? I feel so grateful and blessed. But it's been so good to meet so many other psychology people. Everyone's super passionate and just like has really good intentions. Everyone wants to help others or help out their communities, which is so nice. And yeah, the lecturers are super helpful as well. There's like two Akana programs available as well. So yeah, very supportive.
Awesome. Yeah, keep asking some questions in the chat, guys, but I will make some questions up myself. Do you guys have any sort of study tips when it comes to psychology or uni in general to keep kind of a routine and make sure you're meeting deadlines with assignments and everything?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess we can talk about like what our studies
Yeah, yeah.
look
Yeah,
like.
yeah.
I love using my calendar, either physical calendar or online. Yeah, I have all of my classes on the calendar, so I know which classes to go to when they are, and also when my assignments are due, I put them on there as well, so that I can really plan out when to study. Sometimes I like to also designate in my like calendar like when I should study so that I'm not procrastinating and yeah, being able to just complete everything. Um, I would say make sure to always stay hydrated and eat lots when you're studying, so that your brain is super onto it.
Yeah. Sweet. So just another question in the chat. How long would you guys estimate that the length of study is required to be a psychology professor?
So that would be to be a professor, you have to have a PhD. So that would be probably
Around like that
yeah,
year mark.
yeah, um, yeah, quite a committed career. But yeah, and you continue to do lots of cool research, and they teach as well as do research. So it's very cool. They're all very passionate as well. Every professor I've talked to is very passionate.
Yeah, and I
Mm,
guess just to add a little bit on that, as a PhD student, you can also have opportunities to teach in a class. So I've had some guest lecturers who were PhD students who teaching my
Mm.
classes.
yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Um, just a question of my own as well, actually. So, with your professors, have they worked previously as a psychologist or have they sort of always been academic?
That's a good question. So yes, they've all like the clinical psychologists they are currently working as psychologists as well as teaching as a lecturer. So they'll see a client in the morning, they'll come teach our like 4 to 5 p.m. class, or
Oh,
they'll very committed, or they'll do like they've done it in the past. Like maybe they started off doing like therapy and then they've come more into like an academic career. They've maybe like noticed a gap in the field where people feel like there might be like a disadvantaged population, so they'll come in and do research as an academic. Um, some I've had like a social psychology lecturer that he has just done research his whole life as well, so it's not required, but lots of them do therapy as well, or like work outside uni.
nice. This might be too hard of a question kind of this early on, but do you guys have certain career goals of your own that you want to go off and do certain things?
So that is a good question. One of my career goals is definitely to do postgraduate studies. Um, Currently, I'm still doing a conjoint, so I'm studying 2 degrees, which is law and psychology. Um, and yeah, after I graduate, I really want to do either a master's or a PhD in clinical psychology.
Yeah,
Nice.
I would love to do like postgraduate as well. I'm just thinking of I'm like in the past year, so I graduate this year, so next year I want to do a bit more like experience, maybe working with charities, NGOs. Then I would love to come back and do a master's. My end goal would love to be like registered psychologist. That'd be very cool.
Yeah, nice. Sweet. So we do have just a few more minutes, so please ask your other questions. I'll just get some off my list. Sorry for asking some off the top of my brain. I'm also interested in this. It's quite an interesting degree. Um, yeah, so another question was how competitive is it to get into clinical psychology, in New Zealand specifically?
New Zealand. Oh, very
Yeah.
just like short answer, very tough.
Yeah.
It's super competitive. There are limited spots each year just because there's limited resourcing, and it's also professor dependent on their availabilities as well. In terms of a PhD in clinical psychology at UOA, the process is quite lengthy. You need to submit a written application, you need to have references, you need to have work experience, either working or volunteering in some kind of mental health related areas. And then also you go through an interview process. And then just like if you keep in mind that there's like a limited spot, so it can be quite challenging. A lot of people apply multiple times if they don't get in, but hopefully that doesn't discourage you guys too much. It's definitely doable.
Cool. So just a couple more questions coming through. So someone's asking about, this is for Eliana. So studying law and psychology at the same time, how does that go for you?
Oh, yeah. Thanks for asking that question. Doing law and psychology, they're both quite heavy topics, so I'm usually studying quite a lot to be able to understand each of the topics. What I've done is kind of either focus my time solely on psychology or focus my time solely on law so that my brain doesn't get mixed up. It can get quite busy, especially with law. You have like maybe double the amount of readings that you need to do for psychology. So it's definitely can be quite challenging. But yeah, I really enjoy it. It's super awesome to learn about the both areas.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Like kind of two quite different things, but I suppose they would sort of apply to each other in some aspects as well, which is quite cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so just another question. So throughout the semester, are there like lots of assignments or is it just learning and studying for exams?
That's a really good question. So, um, I'm assuming you might do NCA, so I might like kind of try break it down in like NCA terms. So like you do assignments throughout the semester. They're kind of like your internals, and then we have an exam season at the end of each semester, and there's 2 semesters a year. So two exam seasons a year, and then so they're kind of like your externals. So an assignment that can be like a test, a quiz, or like an essay. Sometimes assignments are even like group projects, presentations, and that's just all throughout your semester. And then after week 12 of the semester, that's when you have, I think it's like a month of exams, and you'll have like your exams then.
Great. So this is for Alana. So what do you learn about in anthropology?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited someone asked this question. Thank you so much. So anthropology, that's like the evolution of humans and human society. It's a very broad topic. I love it so much. It relates quite kind of like law too, like it relates well to psych. So social anthropology is about like society, and lots of that you learn about how we've kind of gotten to the point we are today, like how we went from like hunting and gathering to agricultural to now like urbanization. And it's kind of psychology is very relevant to society as well. So it kind of like anthropology, psychology go well together. But even if anthropology, you can go into more biological anthropology. So that's like how our bones have developed, or primatology. I'm doing a paper about chimpanzees at the moment. So yeah, it's very broad as well. And a good combo of psychology. I would recommend it.
Awesome. No, that's really good because you also do like sociology and things like that as well,
Mhm.
right? I'm
Yeah.
sure that would all sort of tie in together as one, all those humanities
Yeah.
subjects.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good to have that like kind of background knowledge about human behavior. Awesome. Yeah, so I think I'll just close it off. Oh, no, one more question. Final question. So do you know of any careers with sports psychology?
Oh,
That's
that's
cool.
a great
I actually have a
question.
friend who's doing her like capstone in sports psychology at the moment. So that's like your final project at the end of a Bachelor of Science degree. So do you want me to answer?
Yeah,
Oh,
go
yeah,
ahead,
okay.
go ahead.
So sports psychology, you can work with like in a team environment. So that can be like you might, I don't know what's an example, like travel with the All Blacks to like help their mental health. It's like a very up and coming psychology field because people are realizing that like athletes need mental health support. It's a lot of like intrinsic and extrinsic like motivation, dealing with like losses and wins and all that. And yeah, how to stay healthy. So very interesting part of psychology as well. It is quite interconnected with like medical and like exercise science as well. So they're also cool as well.
Sweet. Yeah, so we'll call that the final question. But if you guys did have any more questions, just flick me an email. So everyone should have my email address from when I sent you guys the Zoom link. But if not, just go onto the Hauora Taiwhenua careers page, and my email address is there as well. And I can always pass them on to the girls, or kind of do some research of my own and try to answer the questions. But yeah, thank you so much to you both for presenting to us. It's been super insightful. We had some amazing questions in this webinar. Yeah, so thank you to everyone for joining as well. And I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their evening.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It was so much fun.